Welcome back. Congress returns to Washington this week, another government shutdown looming in just 12 days. This past week, 64 House Republicans toured the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. Several Republicans are now pushing for a shutdown if the Biden administration doesn't immediately take action.
This is a group of U.S. senators continue negotiating a potential bipartisan deal with the White House targeting border security and foreign aid. 3 Wisconsin congressmen were on the border this past week, including Congressman Brian Stile, who we talked to from Eagle Pass, Texas. As we sit here today, there is a group of U.S. senators working on a potential bipartisan solution with the White House. Are you open to that?
The House passed H.R. 2. It's a comprehensive border security bill. The Senate really should just take our bill and bring it to the floor. They should have an up or down vote and let the American people know where their senators stand regarding border security. The importance here is that we move forward with securing the border. All of these policies overlap. And so ending catch and release, ending the abuse of the parole system, and actually getting serious about border security is going to be essential. I look forward to seeing what the Senate comes forward with, but we would be far better served if the Senate simply brought our bill to the floor of the Senate and allowed an up or down vote.
Which you know is unlikely with the Democratic-controlled Senate. So you are open to some bipartisan discussions as those continue in the Senate?
Yeah, I'm willing to work with anybody who's willing to secure the U.S.-Mexico border.
You mentioned the buses and planes of migrants arriving from states like Texas to places like Rockford and Chicago. Do you support those initiatives from those like the Texas governor, and should that expand into states like Wisconsin?
Well, let's be clear. The number of people that are being moved by the state of Texas is a small portion of the total number of migrants coming into the United States. It gets the most press attention. But what people should be aware of is just in the month of December, over 300,000 people entered the United States illegally. We've seen over 6 million people enter the United States illegally during the course of the Biden administration. And so although the fact that Texas has moved some individuals, that's a small portion of the total number that are being moved across the United States on any given day. This is a serious problem that actually needs to be addressed. We're fighting about whether or not we should be mopping up the mess on the floor. I say turn the spigot off, and you turn the spigot off by actually ending the illegal immigration in the United States and securing the border.
To that point, are there plans in place or conversations in place if a plane or a bus were to arrive in a Wisconsin city?
That's a great question for the governor as to what he would do. Clearly, thousands of migrants have made their way into the state of Wisconsin, simply just not gaining the press attention that some of these trips from the state of Texas to Chicago have garnered.
Let's bring in Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan now. We just heard Congressman Stile say that he's open to some type of bipartisan deal on the border and foreign aid. What type of compromise do you anticipate that being able to reach?
Look, this is an issue that's been demagogued for decades. Congress hasn't acted literally for decades. In 2013, when I first got to Congress, there was a bipartisan bill that came out of the Senate with 68 votes. And at the time, John Boehner, who was the Speaker of the House, never took the bill up. And since then, the issue's only been politicized even more.
So what are you willing to accept in terms of more immediate border security?
I think you look at that bill from 2013. It had extra protections at the borders. It had a pathway to citizenship for aspiring Americans. It fixed much of the broken immigration law that right now, really the only way to come in here legally is asylum, but not everyone really is here for asylum, but everything else is largely broken. And Congress has been idle on dealing with this now for a couple decades. In fact, I think what's most ironic is when Donald Trump was president and the Republicans were in the majority in the House and the Senate, they never passed any immigration reform. So this crucial issue that 60 people went down to the border literally 2 weeks before we're going to have a federal government shutdown because the House can't pass budget bills. Here, now they're acting like this is something new and it's Joe Biden's problem when we all know they did nothing when they had an opportunity to, and it's completely Congress's purview to deal with this.
You mentioned the government shutdown, the big date that we're all paying attention to, that first deadline, January 19th. How likely is it that the government is going to shut down this month?
I have no idea. I mean, 60 Republicans are taking photos down at the border, not sitting at a table with the Senate to figure this out. We're going to have to just pass some sort of continuing resolution to keep funding government. I'm hoping that there'll be responsible leadership to get that done with the House majority. But don't forget, it took us 19 votes to get a speaker. Not sure this is the final one for the session yet. We're a House in chaos, and that's part of why we can't get things done.
A lot to accomplish, not a lot of time to get it done when Congress does return to session. Representative Mark Pocan, always great to have you here. Thanks for your time and analysis.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Up next, January 6th, President Biden's campaign front and center. Now a retired Rear Admiral in Wisconsin this weekend speaking out, and he's here next.